Hello dear students, so now from today we are going to start the first chapter of class 10th political science, that is power sharing. So let's dive deep into this chapter. Let's first understand the concept of power sharing. What is this power sharing? Power sharing means the power is getting shared. The power is not there with few hands. Rather the power is getting shared. So this is the concept of the power sharing here. Okay. See, in the early times there was a king, and the king was the sole authority to make the laws, yes or not? And the king was the sole authority to implement those laws, and the king was the sole authority to decide the punishment that is to be given if the laws are not being followed, yes or not? So king was the sole authority to decide the punishment also. Means the king was a kind of almighty. Okay. But all the time the king cannot take the decision in favor of the public. The decision can be wrong also. Okay. All the time the king cannot be good also. The king can be cruel also, like Aurangzeb. Are you getting it or not? So in that sense, this concept means where the power is there with the king is not good. So later we have now a new concept there. So the total power which used to be there with the king in the early times, this power is there with the government. This power is there with the government. And the government has three bodies here. We can say the three organs of the government. So first one is the legislature. So legislature is the body of the government which would make laws. So for making laws, we have the different body of the government. That is the legislature. So legislature makes the law. And we have the different body of the government that would implement those laws, and the body is executive. The body is executive. So we have executive organ of the government that would implement the laws that are being made, and then we have the different body that would decide the punishment if the laws are not being followed, and that body of the government is judiciary. That is judiciary. So this is how we have three organs of the government. So this is how the power which is total here has been divided among three organs of the government, which was not there in the early times. The total power used to be there with the king. King was the sole authority to make laws, to implement laws, to decide the punishment. But it is not now. The total laws would be implemented by would be made by the legislature and would be implemented by the executive, and the punishment would be decided by the judiciary if the laws are not being followed. Are you getting it or not? So this is the concept right now. So why this concept was there? So see, it was thought that if the power is there with many hands, okay, so it would create problem in decision making. It was thought there. Okay. But later, after the advent of the democracy means rather we are the government here, we are in the government, we are taking part in the government. How? Because we are choosing our representatives, and those representatives are making laws. Are you getting it or not? So we are taking part in the government. So after the advent of the democracy, so it was realized later that to take the correct decision, the power sharing is very, very important. To take the correct decision, the power sharing is very important. So legislature would make laws, executive would implement those laws, so judiciary would decide the punishment. Are you getting it? Yes. So if it was there as there in the with the king, so king was making the laws, and king was implementing it also, and king was deciding the punishment also. Okay. The laws might not be in favor of the public there. Are you getting it or not? But right now this is not here in case we have the democracy here. Okay. So in democracy we are choosing our representatives here, and those representatives are making laws in favor of the public, in favor of us. Yes or not? So this is the concept right now. Okay. We would more understand about this concept of the power sharing, where we would take the example, some few examples, like we have the example of Belgium and Sri Lanka. Okay. We would take two examples, like we have the example of Belgium and one is the Sri Lanka. Okay. So we would understand about the concept of the power sharing in Belgium and Sri Lanka. In Belgium, the power was shared among the power was shared equally among all the sections of the society there. In case of the Belgium, but it was not there in case of Sri Lanka. Rather, the power was there with a few group of people there. So it created problem in Sri Lanka. Okay, it created problem in Sri Lanka where the power was not shared equally. Okay, so we would understand about this example of Belgium and Sri Lanka in case of the power sharing. So just note it down. Okay, so see you in the next lecture. Till then, stay tuned and keep watching. Thank you. Have a good day.